The movie, So Young, Too Never Gone, opens by introducing Susie, a young girl from a modest family. Despite facing severe financial difficulties and her father's declining health, Susie's parents are determined to provide her with the best education they can. They invest all their savings to enroll her in a prestigious school, hoping that this will open doors to a brighter future for their daughter. Susie's journey begins at her new school, where she meets Shen, a wealthy but somewhat arrogant boy. Their first interaction is far from pleasant. As Susie is walking to class, Shen speeds past her on his motorcycle, accidentally drenching her with water. This awkward encounter sets the stage for their complicated and evolving relationship. At the school, Susie quickly befriends Mu, a kind-hearted girl who notices that Susie is a newcomer. Mu offers her friendship and guidance, helping Susie feel a bit more comfortable in the unfamiliar environment. Despite her friendly interactions, Susie struggles academically, particularly with math. During a class test, Shen snatches her notebook, teasing her about her poor performance. Annoyed and embarrassed, Susie storms off, leaving him with her notebook. In the next class, San tries to return an unfamiliar notebook to Susie, but she pointedly ignores him and, in a moment of defiance, places a chair on his feet. Uncertain of how to handle the situation, San simply leaves the notebook on her desk and walks away. Later, San's friend approaches Susie and sarcastically remarks, "You really hurt San today. His foot's injured, and I had to take him to the doctor. Who's going to pay for it?" Feeling guilty, Susie withdraws money from her ATM to cover the medical expenses. However, San and his friends end up using the money to throw a party for the entire class. Mao, noticing the situation, confronts San and says, "Do you even realize that the money you're partying with was Susie's entire monthly budget?" This revelation leaves Xian stunned and regretful. Determined to make amends, San quietly transfers the money back to Susie's account before the next class begins. When Susie notices the return, she immediately withdraws the cash again and gives it back to San, refusing to accept his gesture. Later, we see Susie on the rooftop, visibly tense and lost in thought. The weight of her financial struggles and her responsibility to excel in her studies weighs heavily on her. As she ponders how to manage her expenses for the coming month, San arrives to meet her. Breaking the silence, he offers, "I want to help you with your math." Susie refuses, unwilling to accept his assistance. San, however, persists and appeals to her reasoning. "If you keep struggling in math, who's going to suffer the most?" he asks. This strikes a chord in Susie as she remembers the sacrifices her parents have made for her education. Realizing how disappointed they would be if she failed, she reluctantly agrees to let San tutor her. This act of kindness, combined with Shen's willingness to tutor her in math, helps Susie make impressive progress. Her math score improves to 85, a significant boost that fills her with a new sense of pride and accomplishment. Despite their growing closeness, Susie's family problems force her to temporarily leave the school. When she returns, she begins to distance herself from Shen. Confused and hurt by this change in behavior, Shen pleads with Susie to explain what has happened. He promises not to bother her if she simply shares the truth. Susie tearfully confesses that her father has passed away, a devastating loss that has left her emotionally shattered. Shen, though heartbroken, respects her need for space, allowing her the time she needs to heal. 2 years pass, and Susie and Shen have little interaction during this time. As the end of their school days approaches, a farewell party is organized for the students. During the event, Shen's friend tells Susie how much Shen has changed since she distanced herself. This revelation deeply touches Susie. Meanwhile, Mu confesses her feelings to a boy she likes, and the two share a joyous dance, inspiring others to join in. But at that moment, we saw Sen trying to break his promise, gathering the courage to speak to Susie. Meanwhile, Sen, feeling inspired, also convinced Susie to join him in dancing, and soon they were all dancing together. Suddenly, the power went out. In the darkness, James kissed Mao, and at the same time, Sen hugged Susie tightly. Just as the lights came back on, Susie pulled away and started to walk away, with Sen following her. Sen then said, "I love you so much. Please, be my partner." In China, they don't necessarily marry. They often live together without formal marriage. He continued, "We can live together and study together, But Susie didn't say anything. She remained silent and unexpectedly kissed him. Sen, seeing it as a positive sign, believed it was a sign of hope. But as they parted ways, we saw Susie crying. She had made the decision that from that day on, she would never meet Sen again. That was her final gesture. As time passed, school life ended, and everyone prepared to join different colleges. Susie joined a college where she met a senior named Joan. Joan was older than Susie, and she admired him as a kind person. Joan took great care of Susie, and they even worked part-time together. Over time, they developed a close relationship. However, people began telling Susie that Joan had feelings for her, while Susie considered him just a friend. Before Susie could say anything, someone called her name, and when she turned, she saw Joan had come to meet her. Just as Susie was about to leave upon seeing Sen, Sen grabbed her hand. Joan stepped forward and introduced himself to Sen, declaring, "I'm Susie's boyfriend." Sen confidently responded, "I'm also Susie's boyfriend." Later, Susie took the two of them to a temple, where there was a book where people could write their wishes. The three of them wrote their desires in the book. At this point, Sen tried to see what Susie had written, but she refused to show him. However, Sen's sister arrived, and with a bit of strategy, took Joan away, giving Sen and Susie time to talk. When they were alone, Sen asked Susie, "What did you find lacking in me? Or what did I do wrong that makes you keep pushing me away, wanting to be distant from me?" Susie remained silent. At that moment, Sen forcefully kissed her, and Joan saw it. That night, the three of them went to a restaurant together. Susie appeared very anxious and drank too much, eventually passing out. Strangely, while unconscious, Susie kept murmuring Sen's name, which made Sen happy, and he started drinking as well. The next day, when Susie spoke with Joan, he said, "I won't speak to you anymore." Joan was hurt by the events of the previous night and said, "Believe it or not, you still love Sen more than you admit." At this point in the story, I found myself wondering, what does Susie really want? In the next scene, after hearing Joan's words, Susie went to the hotel. There, she confronted Sen, asking, "Why haven't you left my life? Why do you keep bothering me?" Sen replied, "2 years ago, you left me, and even now, don't you ever wish to see me again?" Susie responded, "You were the one who made the effort. You forced me into tutoring, helped me, and even made me your girlfriend. You've been following me around all this time. I never asked you to do any of that." Sen was shocked, confused about what Susie was trying to say. Then Sen asked her one last question. "Why didn't you say no that day at the party? Why did you kiss me? From that day on, I'd been waiting for you like a fool." Susie then replied, "Maybe you were right all along. Perhaps it was a mistake for me to wait or think about you." And so, the two of them parted ways once again. As time passed, not 2 or 3 years, but 3 years went by, and everyone had completed their graduation. During this time, Susie had lost contact with both Sen and Joan. There was no communication, and everyone had gone their separate ways. At this moment, we see Mu, who had become a medical student. We see that James, whom Mu had proposed to during their school years, is now sick in the hospital. Mu, though they haven't communicated for some time, feels deeply affected and helps nurse James back to health. Afterward, Susie visits her mother at home, where she unexpectedly runs into her uncle. It is revealed that Susie's aunt passed away, and her uncle has no children, so he stayed with Susie's family. They have regular conversations, and Susie enjoys spending time with him. While walking with her mother outside, Susie sees Sen again. Sen insists on coming into her home, and we see Susie's mother making paper dolls. Sen reveals that his mother has bought an electric factory in the neighborhood, and that he'll be around more often. Sen tries to help Susie with her work, offering to assist her with the paper dolls, but Susie is resistant, saying that his help might spoil the work, and that the dolls are cheap. Sen, undeterred, offers to pay her double the price of the dolls, hoping she'll spend time with him. Susie, still upset, walks away. That night, Sen stays up trying to make the paper dolls, and the next morning, Susie is deeply moved by the sight of his injured hands, cut by the bamboo sticks used to make the dolls. Susie realizes that Sen, who had never had to work hard in his life, stayed up all night making the dolls for her. This emotional realization makes her thank him, and Sen suggests that they be together after graduation, regardless of where she works. He promises to support her. Susie agrees, and they begin a genuine relationship. After graduation, Susie applies for jobs that would require her to be in Beijing, but she doesn't get hired there. She shares her job search troubles with Sen, who calls her to express his sadness when she tells him she couldn't find a job in Beijing but has secured one elsewhere. Susie then understands that Sen is hurt by her decision. In response, she buys a train ticket to meet him. On the way, Sen calls her, apologizing and saying he is angry, but now he wants to meet her. They both end up deciding to meet halfway at a station in Shanghai. There, they reconnect, smile, and spend the night together in a hotel. They agree to move in together as partners, starting a new chapter of their lives. Meanwhile, Jamez and Mu are seen together. Jamez informs Mu that he is getting married to another girl, as arranged by his family, and he cannot leave. Mu, although heartbroken, hides her feelings and congratulates him. Later, Mu reveals to Susie that she will be leaving the country to study abroad and says her goodbyes tearfully. The final scene hints at another invitation, this time for a party hosted by Susie's sister, leaving us anticipating the next chapter in her life. At a party, Susie learns that Joanne is currently Sen's sister's boyfriend, and they are planning to marry. Sen, feeling concerned, questions his sister about whether Joanne is truly right for her, or if he's just after her money. In turn, Sen's sister asks the same question about Susie, implying that he suspects Susie might be in it for the money too. Meanwhile, when Susie is speaking with Joanne, he confesses his desire to become wealthy, which is why he is marrying Sen's sister. It becomes clear that Joanne is using her to achieve his financial goals. Sen is not happy with this situation. After the party, on their way home, Susie suddenly asks Sen if he would marry her, pledging that no matter the difficulties, she would never let go of his hand. Later, Susie's uncle visits and informs her that her mother has cancer, requiring a large sum of money for treatment. He insists that Susie should not ask Sen for help, as Sen has already done a lot for the family, even quitting his job at the factory. Susie must find a way to manage the money herself. When Sen learns about Susie's struggle, he offers her financial assistance, saying he has managed to arrange the money. However, Susie reveals that she has already borrowed the money from Joanne. This causes tension, as Sen feels hurt and betrayed, questioning why Susie would turn to Joanne instead of him. Despite their relationship, he expresses his frustration, saying that he has always been there for her. Susie defends her decision, explaining that Sen has already given so much for her family, and that Joanne, being from a similar financial background, understands the struggles better. Despite Sen's anger, Susie insists that she is grateful for all his help, but doesn't want to burden him further. In a fit of rage, Sen takes the money Joanne lent and returns it to him. Joanne then confronts Sen, reminding him that while Susie didn't tell him about borrowing from him, she did come to him in her time of need. This only angers Sen further, and he heads to a bar with his friends to drink away his frustration. Susie later tries to speak with Sen and get him to come back with her, but Sen refuses, sending her away. His friends criticize him for being unreasonable, prompting Sen to return home. Back at home, Susie shows Sen an agreement, written by her, stating that she owes him money, but she will repay it soon. This gesture pushes Sen to his limits. He can no longer stay calm and begins to express his frustrations. He accuses Susie of never truly understanding him, of always isolating herself and never letting him be part of her life. In tears, Sen confronts Susie about how he feels neglected. Susie tries to comfort him, but Sen's pain is too much to contain. He reveals that since 2007, they've been together, but Susie has never truly seen him as an equal. He believes they were never meant for each other and that they should break up. With these words, Sen ends their relationship. 2 years pass, and in 2016, we see Susie visiting a temple where she had written a wish years ago. On her way back, she remembers the wish and, searching through her old books, tries to recall what she had written, reflecting on the journey that brought her to this point. As Susie reflects on the past, he checks his old writings and realizes that he had only written about Susie, confirming how deeply he loved him at the time. Susie understands that he has missed a great opportunity in life. Meanwhile, Shan, feeling the pain of the past, has moved from China to America. The idea is that when you face hardship in a place, it's best to leave it, as the surroundings will constantly remind you of the old memories. This is why Shan has moved from China to New York, seeking a fresh start. However, Susie manages to find Shan's address and travels to New York. From a distance, Susie sees Shan, but hesitates to approach him, wondering if Shan has married someone else. He questions whether meeting him would be the right thing to do, and whether they could ever reunite. The movie ends on this unresolved note, leaving the relationship between the two characters uncertain. The story then shifts to a deeper reflection on love. The narrator shares that, in real life, when someone loves you, we often take it for granted. But true love is rare, and when you find it, you should appreciate it fully. If you keep pushing and demanding more, you might lose that love forever. The movie encourages valuing true love, as it might not always be expressed in grand gestures, but in consistent, steadfast affection over time. The film leaves us with a profound message about valuing love and relationships, and the importance of patience and understanding in the pursuit of true happiness.